My name is Alistair Saxon, hunter and protector, employed by a mysterious organization known only as the Shadows. This time, however, I will be playing the role of mediator. My work sometimes takes me to the far reaches of the world to resolve conflicts that are beyond the capabilities of ordinary men. Today was one of those times. A message arrived, instructing me to travel to the remote and snowy landscapes of Norway. 2 werewolf clans on the brink of war needed a mediator, and I was the chosen one. As I methodically sorted through my equipment, selecting the necessary tools of my trade with practiced ease, my mind couldn't help but drift back to past encounters with werewolves, igniting a surge of apprehension that coursed through my veins. The society of werewolves is a perilous one, a veritable tinderbox teeming with underlying tensions. Their innate, primal instincts, a fierce and wild force, often clash violently with the pressing need for diplomatic discourse and the delicate dance of politics. This impending journey promised a landscape riddled with potential landmines, a treacherous path that demanded careful navigation. Yet, it was a trajectory I had successfully maneuvered before. Not least when the original agreement between the Winterpelt and Timberfang clans was brokered and signed under my watchful eye many years ago, early in my career. Upon disembarking in Norway, the ambiance was as foreboding as I had mentally braced myself for. The topography was a tapestry of dense forests, rivers arrested in their flow by the icy embrace of winter, and settlements sparsely scattered, isolated in their solitude. At the heart of my mission were 2 werewolf clans, the Winterpelt, commanded by the imposing figure of Einar, and the Timberfang, under the leadership of Harken. For decades, a fragile peace had been upheld between the 2 clans, each adhering to the terms of their pact by avoiding human interaction and respecting the demarcations of their territories. However, this delicate balance was upset by the overzealous hunting activities of nearby human settlements, resulting in a scarcity of food supplies and a subsequent escalation of tensions. The Winterpelt clan inhabited the regions cloaked in dense forestation, a realm where the trees stood as sentinels, their branches interweaving to form a canopy that shielded the forest floor from the sky. The Timberfang clan, on the other hand, resided in areas bordered by the frozen rivers, a landscape characterized by its icy expanses and the brittle crunch of snow underfoot. My first order of business was to travel to these regions, engage with the clan leaders, and commence the mediation process. Equipped with the knowledge of the territories I needed to traverse, I charted my course, aware that the success of my mission hinged on my ability to navigate the treacherous political landscape and defuse the ticking time bomb of animosity between the Winterpelt and Timberfang clans. My first order of business was to arrange separate meetings with the leaders of the 2 clans. It was crucial to understand their perspectives and grievances before any attempt to mediate could be made. Einar, the chieftain of the Winterpelt, was the first on my agenda. I was directed to a clearing in the heart of the forest, a location selected by Einar for its strategic advantage. There, amidst a throng of werewolves, I encountered the Winterpelt leader. A formidable figure, Einar's physique was both awe-inspiring and intimidating. His jet-black fur glinted darkly under the dappled sunlight filtering through the trees. His eyes, piercing orbs of intelligence, bore into mine as we exchanged greetings. In the clearing, there were about a dozen werewolves. Some stood as humans, their musculature a testament to their strength, while others, in their wolf forms, paced restlessly, their eyes watchful. Einar nodded, and then, with a determined look, he began to transform. It was a sight to behold. The process of shifting from wolf to human form, or vice versa, was a deeply personal and powerful experience for werewolves. Einar's transformation was no exception. His body began to ripple and change, fur receding into the skin, limbs shifting and reconfiguring. The immense black wolf before me gradually morphed into a man of equally imposing stature. Standing tall, Einar's human form retained the same air of authority and strength as his wolf form. His hair, as black as his fur, fell in waves to his shoulders, and his eyes retained their piercing quality. As the transformation completed, Einar stood before me as another figure gave him his clothes. Now clad in the traditional attire of his clan, a mixture of black furs and leathers designed for the harsh climate of the region. "Welcome, Alistair Saxon," Einar greeted, extending a hand in the human gesture of goodwill. His voice was a deep rumble that resonated in the forest air. "Thank you, Einar," I reply, shaking his hand firmly. "I appreciate the welcome." "We have much to discuss," he said gravely, his gaze never wavering. "I understand that the food supply has been dwindling, and your clan is struggling to survive," I began, addressing the issue head-on. Einar nodded, a frown creasing his brow. "Indeed, it has been a harsh winter, and the game in our territory has been scarce. Our clan has been respecting the agreement, avoiding human territories and the settlements that have encroached upon our lands. But it has not been without its challenges." I listened intently, absorbing every word. It was clear that the Winterpelt were adhering to the agreement, but the strain on their resources was taking a toll. "And the Timberfang?" Einar's expression darkened. "I have no quarrel with the Timberfang, but tensions are high, and suspicions run deep." I nodded, understanding the implications of his words. It was a delicate situation, and one misstep could lead to an all-out war between the clans. I would have to tread carefully and use all of my skills as a mediator to broker a peace between the Winterpelt and the Timberfang. "Thank you for sharing your perspective, Einar," I said. "I will do everything in my power to find a solution that benefits both clans." Einar nodded, a glimmer of hope in his eyes. "I trust that you will, Alistair." After our exchange of thanks and commitment to finding a peaceful solution, Einar beckoned someone from the shadows of the room. "Alistair, I would like you to meet someone very important to me," he said, a touch of warmth entering his voice. A young girl, no older than 16, stepped forward from the darkness, her eyes bright and attentive. She had the same jet-black hair as her father, though hers was braided down her back, and her eyes, while just as intense, held a softer light. She was dressed in a similar fashion to Einar, her clothing a testament to the harsh environment in which the Winterpelt clan lived. "This is my daughter, Hildi," Einar introduced, placing a hand on her shoulder. Hildi stepped forward, offering her hand. "It's an honor to meet you, Alistair," she said, her voice strong and confident. "I've heard much about you." I took her hand and nodded. "The pleasure is mine, Hildi." Einar's expression turned serious once again as he addressed both of us. "I have always done everything in my power to protect my clan," he said, his gaze shifting between me and his daughter. "And my family. I will continue to do so, no matter what it takes." Hildi nodded, her expression determined. "And I stand with my father," she added. "We both want what is best for our clan." I looked between them, sensing the depth of their commitment and the strength of their bond. "I understand," I replied, "and I will do everything in my power to help achieve a peaceful resolution." Einar nodded, a look of gratitude crossing his face. "Thank you, Alistair," he said. Your help means more to us than you know." As the meeting came to a close, Einar took a few steps back, his gaze fixed on me. "There is one more thing, Alistair," he said, his voice steady. A flicker of gratitude flashed in his eyes. "I wanted to thank you personally for your actions moons ago, when you defeated Greyhold and his pack." I nodded, remembering the battle well. Greyhold had led an organized pack of werewolves, terrorizing a village and forcing those within to participate in a deadly and inhumane game. It was this very game that had ultimately led to Greyhold's downfall. Greyhold and his ilk gave werewolves interested in peace a bad name, Einar continued, his voice tinged with regret. "Your actions that day helped to restore some of the lost trust between our kind and the humans." I inclined my head, acknowledging his thanks. "It was the right thing to do," I reply simply. After the meeting with Einar and the Winterpelts, I made my way towards the territory of the Timberfang clan, located on the other side of the river that acted as a natural boundary between the two clans. Harkin, the leader of the Timberfang, had arranged to meet me at the river's edge, a neutral ground of sort. As I approached the agreed spot, I took in the scene before me. Harkin stood at the center, his imposing figure clad in gray fur that almost blended into the wintry landscape, a stern expression etched onto his features. Around him, members of the Timberfang clan gathered, all in wolf form. In total, there were about 10 of them, all eyeing me with a mix of curiosity and suspicion. As I approached the agreed spot, I noticed 2 large wolves step forward, effectively blocking my view of the center of the gathering, of the figure of Harkin. I pause, keeping my expression neutral as I assess the situation. After a few moments, Harkin stepped forth from behind the wolves, now in his human form, clad in a robe made of gray fur. "Thank you for coming, Alistair." Harkin greeted me with a nod, not a hint of warmth in his voice, but not hostile either. It was a practiced neutrality, one I had encountered many times in my line of work. "I'm here to help in any way I can," I reply, meeting his gaze steadily. "Einar has expressed his concerns about the food supply." Harkin's eyes flickered with a hint of surprise at the mention of Einar, but he quickly masked it with a nod. "Yes, the food supply is a concern," he agreed. "But there are other matters at hand as well. Some of my clan members have reported seeing Winterpelt hunting in our territory. This is a clear violation of the agreement we all signed." The gravity of the situation was not lost on me. If what Harkin was saying was true, it could potentially ignite the spark that would set off a full-blown war between the two clans. "I see," I said, carefully, choosing my words with deliberation. "This is a serious accusation, and one that will need to be addressed. Can you provide any proof of these claims?" Harkin's expression tightened, and for a moment I thought he might refuse. But then he nodded at one of the clan members, who stepped forward holding a tuft of fur in their jaw, dropping it into Harkin's outstretched hand. "This was found at the scene of the last sighting. It matches the colors of the Winterpelt clan." I took the fur and examined it closely. It was a distinctive jet black, and one that I recognized as being the color of Einar and his kin. However, it was not definitive proof, and I knew it would not be enough to convince Einar and his clan of any wrongdoing. "Thank you, Harkin," I said, handing the fabric back to him. "I will take this into consideration during my investigation." Harkin nodded, his expression still guarded. "I appreciate your efforts, Alistair. We all want to avoid a war if possible, but my clan will not be pushed around, and we will defend our territory if necessary." The stern determination in his voice left no room for doubt. I nodded in understanding. "I will do everything in my power to ensure it does not come to that," I promised. With a final nod, Harkin turned and walked away, his clan members following closely behind. I was left standing alone at the river's edge, the weight of the task ahead settling heavily on my shoulders. As I trekked back through the dense forest towards the spot I had designated as my camp, the weight of the situation settled heavily on my shoulders. Both leaders were clearly on edge, the tension practically palpable in the air during our conversations. It was now up to me to defuse the situation. I had assured them both, with as much conviction as I could muster, that I would do everything within my power to find a solution that would benefit both clans and prevent an all-out war. For the moment, both leaders seemed satisfied with this and agreed to hold off on any aggressive actions until I could complete my investigation. It was no small feat to facilitate peace between two clans teetering on the brink of war, and the accusation of the Winterpelt clan hunting in Timberfang's territory only complicated matters. If this was true, it was a clear violation of the agreement that I had helped establish many years ago. It was crucial that I approach this investigation with a clear mind and an unbiased perspective. I planned to start by revisiting the terms of the original agreement and then, with the permission of both clans, conducting a thorough examination of the disputed territory. This would involve tracking any recent hunting activity, speaking with clan members who might have witnessed any violations, and assessing the current food supply of both clans. It was imperative that I uncover any underlying issues that may have contributed to the current situation. I had my work cut out for me, that much was certain. As I reached the spot I had mentally earmarked for my camp, I was relieved to see the cluster of large rocks that would provide a natural barrier against the biting wind that swept across the open landscape. The sky was darkening quickly now, and the temperature was dropping with it. I set to work immediately, unpacking my gear and setting up my tent in the lee of the rocks. The ground was hard and frozen, but I managed to secure the tent pegs with a bit of effort. Once the tent was up, I gathered some dry wood and kindling from the surrounding area and set about building a fire. The fire was a welcome companion as the darkness deepened around me. I sat close to it, warming my hands and letting its light and heat drive away the chill that had settled in my bones during the long day. I used the time to organize my thoughts and plan my actions for the next day. I would start by requesting access to the disputed territory from both Einar and Harkin. If they agreed, I could begin my investigation in earnest. I knew it would be a long and arduous task, but it was a necessary one. As I settled into my camp and tended to the fire, I couldn't help but reflect on its dual purpose. On one hand, it was, for my own benefit, a source of warmth in the biting cold that was quickly becoming more oppressive as the night wore on. The fire crackled and snapped, its warmth seeping into my chilled bones, providing a small but significant comfort in the vast, cold wilderness. Yet, the fire served another purpose. It was a signal to the werewolf clans, a beacon in the darkness that showed them exactly where I was. By lighting it, I was announcing my presence and my position to both the Winterpelt and the Timberfang clans. It was a symbol of my neutrality and my commitment to resolving the situation peacefully. I was not here to take sides or to instigate further conflict. I was here as a mediator, an outsider tasked with finding a way to bring the two clans back from the brink of war. As I sat there, staring into the flames, I couldn't help but feel the weight of the responsibility that had been placed upon my shoulders. The future of both clans hung in the balance, and it was up to me to find a way to tip the scales towards peace. It was a daunting task, but it was one I was determined to complete. With a sense of resolve, I turned my thoughts towards the investigation that lay ahead. There was much to do, and little time to do it. As the flames flickered and danced before me, I felt a sense of resolve harden within me. I had taken on a monumental task, but I was determined to see it through. With a final glance at the night sky, I crawled into my tent and settled down for a fitful night's sleep. Tomorrow would be a long day, and I needed all the strength I could muster. The next morning, as the first rays of light pierced the dense forest, I was awakened by the sound of hurried footsteps approaching my camp. It was a messenger from the Winterpelt clan, his face etched with worry. He brought news that would thrust the already tense situation into a full-blown crisis.